Martin, you were saying just before we came on air that this is absolutely vital and crucial for Japan. How vital is it?
It's very important because basically Abenomics, the structural part of all the reform policies, are anchored around TPP. Opening up the markets, liberalizing markets from agriculture to pharmaceuticals is very important domestically. Even if the negotiations dragging on a bit, if there is a basic agreement, the government can link its policy to it and push things through. Very important.
Well, it's not up to them. You know, we've got dairy is a bit of a, let's say, a stumbling block. We've got other stumbling blocks when it comes to things like, well, copyright, I suppose you could put it that way as well. You know, has a deal really been cobbled together, or we're just waiting for the, you know, the lines, the T's to be crossed?
It really depends on what you want to see. So far, TPP has basically been dead already quite a few times, and every time we wondered, oh, they're still keeping on negotiating and doing things, and this time it looks much better than before. What we would likely want to see is that we get a basic deal now, some final negotiation through the rest of the year, some signing ceremony early next year. That would be the best case scenario. It will still take time until all the government have come together and approving things, but still we can go on then moving into that direction, opening up markets, and in Japan this is a very, very important case.
Well, absolutely. And how long does it take? I mean, it's not something which will happen overnight when a deal is signed. How does it resuscitate Abenomics, if indeed Abenomics needs resuscitation?
Absolutely. The government needs to improve the news flow again. There is very little. Everybody is looking again at the Bank of Japan. If the Bank of Japan is doing something, this is so far the only more or less reliable engine of growth so far and of government action. Otherwise, structural reforms on the ground are more or less on hold. Not much is happening. We will probably see a very similar cabinet line-up than we had before. So very little change here. These external anchors are therefore even more important.
The thing is, Martin, the last guest we had was indeed Sean Darby from Jefferies, and he was saying that, well, OK, the macroeconomic data looks weak, but the microeconomic data, he said, look really good. And he's saying that the facts don't fit the crime, as it were. So why is corporate Japan doing so well and the economy not?
Well, not even the macro data are that bad. It's just the level Abenomics in its initial push created and all the expectations. So far, the economy is doing quite well. Household spending is doing quite well. Corporations are planning to invest. They are doing so. We have a risk-off situation where implementation is suffering quite a bit. And what we don't have is the top-line CPI inflation data, the top-line growth data really following up on what the government has promised. We have inflation increasing. We have increasing prices, we have increasing demand. So it's not just macro. It's a bit an expectation thing, and it is also what is happening here on the ground within corporations and households, and that is comparatively promising.
Well, wages are going to be important here, and there is wage inflation, but again, we do have that problem of that translating into CPI growth.
Well, so far households are actually not that happy anymore to see increasing consumer prices. Wages are increasing only very, very slowly. Overall, in particular, the exporters are not doing so well because the entire environment in Asia has become so much more tricky. Domestic companies are doing very well, but now they're focusing on investment and profitability. Very important in Japan. We had very little of that. Wages will come later, and as long as they are not coming, households don't want to see much higher prices. The Bank of Japan hears that and is not pushing as hard as before to boost prices anymore, I guess.